there like Stone Cold with a few beers. Play the game, I in the game, I'm champion, I'm Triple H. Undertaker, I'm your maker, bury the brother like Kane. Ooh, 1-3, hit the tombstone, hit the choke slam on face. Ooh, yeah, like a macho heel, tell like country muscle. If you suffer like tomatoes, I'ma keep a couple models. Ooh, and you may call me HBK. When I'm tuning up the vein, you best be getting in my way. Ooh, yeah, I'm degenerate, I love it, yes, I love it. If you ain't down with that, then I got two words for you, suck it. Too sweet, too sweet.
Welcome everyone to your longest running Australian wrestling podcast, Wrestle Radio Australia. I'm your host, Todd Eastman. And this week, normally I would ramble on about what's happened this past week in Australian wrestling and whatnot. But instead of doing that, because I have an American guest this week, so we don't really talk all that much about Australian wrestling. Surprisingly, you wouldn't believe it. So what I thought I would do is I would give an old mate from PWA a call and see if he would come on and talk about the show this weekend coming up, Seal with a Kiss. Started out with a kiss. Seal with a Kiss. Mm-hmm. It's a Seal show.
I like that, though. That's nice.
Yeah. Andrew Rose, how are you, mate? Sorry about that.
I'm great, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's good. I mean, there's so much going on in the world of wrestling. I don't blame you, but I appreciate that you take some time to kind of look at what's happening here in the homegrown world, and PWA is back, and we got some shows coming up, and we're very excited about it. It's good to be back.
Well, you've hit a good old streak. You had the first big fight show, and then you had the Academy show, which was really good. It showed a lot of the new talent coming through PWA, like that Farah kid. I love that Farah kid. I can't wait to see more of him.
What a start.
And back pain, I'll tell you, if they ever need an actual fat manager, I'm right there, because I love they've got so much potential. I love their work.
Yeah. I think it was a big thing for us to want to come back when we came back to do shows, that we wanted to keep the Academy shows rolling at the same time, because the Dingo process is extremely important to PWA, and it's worked incredibly. And it's so awesome every time to come to a show and see the Dingoes there learning and training and getting better. And then to be able to call them shining at the Academy like that is just awesome. And I'm glad that we came back two-pronged with the Black Label shows and the Pro Wrestling Academy shows, because it just shows the two sides of what we're trying to create at PWA.
Yeah. And then, of course, for me, like the Academy show, I love, because one of my boys, Xander Sullivan, had a match against Ricky. And
yes, it's all a conspiracy.
It was all a conspiracy. Really, I don't know what happened to him. He was fine when he left here. You guys have done something to him.
Hey, man, the world's crazy, man. We're coming off the back of the craziest year we've ever experienced. I don't blame Xander for feeling like the world might be a little bit against him.
Well, yeah, I suppose if you think about it, he's moved up here. He was like mid to upper level card guy. He goes, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to move to Sydney and start training with PWA, and I'll work my way up there. And then the world collapsed. He had to think something was going on.
Yeah, well, that's the side effect of moving to Sydney. You might go crazy. you might lose your mind. It's a big city, and a lot of things can happen.
Oh dear. Before we get into the card, mate, because there wasn't that much happening in Australian wrestling last weekend, really, did you catch the whole controversy with the AEW pay-per-view? And what did you think?
I did. I watched the pay-per-view. I was actually very excited for it. I have to admit that on my weekly viewing, I do watch NXT live, and I will catch up on AEW stuff. So I'm not admittedly a week-to-weeker for AEW, and I know some people now are calling for my head on a stick, but I'm a big-time NXT guy. I love it. I love their women's division. I love everything they're doing, and so I follow that narrative more closely. But this one, they'd sold it so interestingly that I had to tune in. There was something for everyone on this show, and I tuned in, and some of it was great. And I think the other stuff has been talked about a million times, and I think we're all aware of what's happened. But man, what a show! I mean, a show I'll never forget, and that's what wrestling is, right?
Yeah. Like the only thing I like, and I've said this to other people around, all their matches just seem to go that little bit too long. Like
it did feel long.
If there was 5 minutes cut from most of those matches, I reckon that show would have been amazing. And like, you can't blame Omega, Kingston, and Moxley for what happened at the end. That was AEW Productions' fault. That's not their fault at all. If anything, I feel the worst. I don't feel the worst for Omega I feel the worst for Kingston, because he put in such a good effort selling the anguish, then covering him. To not know, because he covered him so tight, he wouldn't have known that it was a fart in a church. So he was just trying to sell it like I've been blown up here. Meanwhile, Moxley's sort of like, dude, you don't know what just happened.
Yeah, I think the main word in Moxley's mind would be ow, because I think he was pretty sore at the end of that. There was, the double under DDT that he does. What do they call it? The Death Rider on the outside. I agreed with someone talking the other day about how the pyro took away from that. That move was insane. If there was no pyro, that would have been crazy. But because there was a little pyro, we all kind of went, and that's a shame, because I think they did work really hard.
The only thing too I picked up from that, and it's only after I watched it a second time, because I thought I want to separate myself from what happened at the end, and I'll just watch the match, and I'll turn it off to the end of the match, because that's going to taint my view.
Interesting. And
it was a really, really good match. The only thing I'll say is that they'd really they'd really worked the barbed wire, I think, almost a little too much, whereas like they'd made it very safe for them. Because if you notice when he hit that Death Rider on there, nothing stuck in him, nothing. Like if you get stuck in that barbed wire, other matches you've seen like Sabu and Terry Funk and ECW and that, they literally had to like pull themselves away. And when he gets up off the thing, nothing really stuck to his jeans, nothing stuck to his shirt. And I'm just like, it still would have hurt like buggery, but it was just like, just that bit straight away took a little bit away from me. But the match itself, I thought was brilliant. All the explosions coming up to that last one were perfect.
Yeah, it's just it's an unfortunate thing. It's like the you can have a great season as a sports team, but if you don't win the grand final, no one cares. Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. It's like that last moment lost its pizzazz, and you can't necessarily point at one person in particular and say that's why it didn't work. But yeah, you can't take anything away from the amount of work and bravery and trust it takes to do a match like that, and especially to attempt it in 2021 when we haven't seen something like that for a while. But it is interesting what you say about the barbed wire, because it is a kind of a lost in translation thing in wrestling, because a table in America is very different to a table in Japan. You know what I mean? Barbed wire would be the same thing, I think. And you see that in a lot of that stuff. It's like, there's a figure of an idea of what it will be, but it's not necessarily always going to be that case from region to region. And I think we saw it a little bit on that, is that they are doing a television show and their talent is their priority, and you are attempting to do a death match. So there's a disconnect there a little bit, but you know, I was thoroughly sports entertained after that show. I had a bit of everything. I laughed. I was impressed. I got excited. I was bored. It had everything. It was just no different from WrestleMania, really.
For me, I've got a lot of mates that are diehard AEW fans, to the point where they will shit on everything. It doesn't matter what they say, doesn't matter what you say. They will, if you point out a booking flaw, WWE, WWE. And as soon as I really enjoyed the match, but I hate to say it, when that explosion went off like it did, I was like, oh no, boys. How are we going to get out of this one? And then the one thing I will say that I really didn't like is that the way that they're trying to cover it up now, like Tony Khan in the post-match media scrum went on to say, I think it just proves that Kenny Omega just doesn't know how to build a ring for a death match for the Explode. Yeah. And I'm just like, look, AEW, you've built yourself on the thing where we're not going to bullshit fans. We're going to be straight up with everyone. Don't do that. Just go, look, it didn't work out the way we wanted it to, obviously. And that's something that we're going to make up to the fans by doing XYZ. Not our world champion is an idiot who doesn't know how to build a ring.
Yeah. Immediately I got an image in my head of someone doing a stage show hanging from wires, and the wires break and they fall face first onto the stage and the crowd goes quiet and he stands up. What do? Do you say your next line, or do you just go, oh, sorry, everyone, we're going to reset in 5 minutes and keep going? You know what I mean? There is this essence of the show must go on. I understand why they would take that stance, but again, it's like, what do? Do you either just say, oh, we stuffed up, or you try and move forward with the narrative and the show must go on? So it's a tough one to think about how best to handle it, but there's always good advice in business, which is if you don't put yourself in that situation in the first place, you don't face those troubles. And I think maybe this might help them going forward, because they're doing great They're like a new entity that's doing. I want to see them do good. I don't want to see this happen. I don't want to see these kind of incidents. To do great, this might help them in future decisions of, oh, maybe we don't need to, put 3 cages on top of it and give Dave Arquette the belt to get it done.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. Like when I'm critical about it, it's because I want them to be better. It's not because I want. I want to show everyone, look, they're terrible. That's bad. It's like I want them to trim their matches a little bit so they're a little bit tighter and they don't overuse, because you can tell with some of them that some of the guys, they might want to go 30 minutes. They don't know how to go 30 minutes. So after like that 20, 25 minute, they're sort of running out of things to, and you see it's sort of just like there's some guys like the end of that battle royal with Phoenix and Jungle Boy. That was amazing. That was, and for a split second, I thought Jungle Boy's going to win this, which is exactly what they want you to think. Yeah. So it's like at the end of that, I'm like, that was brilliant. Getting into it, like the rumble into it was not the best, but that final spot was great. And I think that means it's sort of like a microcosm of the whole show. If the end of the match is great, you're going to forget what the rest of it was like.
Yeah. I mean, that happens a lot in wrestling, those endings can ruin something. And I mean, we just saw it at the Rumble a little while back with the handcuffs, struggling to get the handcuffs off. So it happens to every company, I think. And all you can really do is try and minimize the moving parts for that to happen. And 9 times out of 10, you should be able to trust in your talent to tell a story. That's what I love about my job at PWA, is that everyone is so good at telling the story. It makes mine easy. And you hope those times that you do the spectacles, they don't become a Punjabi prison match or something. You don't kind of, you don't just go too far. It's a fine line. It is a very fine line about what's acceptable and what's not.
It's funny you said that, because I thought as soon as that happened, I thought of the Punjabi prison. Like, well, this is what I'm going to think of when I think of this match, which is hard for those guys because they put so much into it.
Yes. I mean, I'm sure there was nerves before the first Elimination Chamber that they're just going, oh, everyone's going to hate this. It's going to be, they would have stood there, looked at the Hell in a Cell and gone, have we gone too far? Is this hokey? Like Inferno
but
matches.
That first cell was death. I mean, they've safened it up a bit now, but those first ones, I would have hated to be anywhere near that ring because there was no protection at all. And
hindsight's 2020. You look back on something and go, oh, yeah, of course Money in the Bank was always going to work. Of course this was always going to, of course War Games was always going to work. But really, you've just got to try stuff. Like, who would have thought some of the cinematics they did at WrestleMania last year would ever be realities? Like the Firefly Funhouse stuff and the Undertaker in a yard, and some of them worked. So, you got to throw. 2020 was the year of throwing shit at the wall for professional wrestling, I think. It's changed a lot.
You say that because I even completely forgotten about the Money in the Bank until I was listening to a podcast today and they brought it up. I went, oh, shit, they did, didn't they? They fought from the bottom of Titan Towers to the top. I've forgotten all about that.
And it was great. I was thoroughly laughing the entire time.
Rey Mysterio got thrown off the edge of Titan Tower.
Yes, Rey Mysterio was murdered at Money in the Bank, and no one has looked into who this man is hanging out with Ray's son wearing his mask. He's been dead since Money in the Bank, and no one has brought it up. It's concerning.
He's had a rough year, really, hasn't he?
Ray?
Yeah, he got thrown off the edge of a building. His young daughter got with Buddy Murphy. He got an eye popped out. He got rough times.
You know what, though? If you would ask Ray how his last year went, he would tell you while winking that he had an incredible he would tell you that he had an incredible year because his son started wrestling
and got to wrestle with him.
So all that pain and all that ridiculousness, you just know he'd be proud that his son's getting to wrestle. I mean, that is incredible that 2 generations are walking to the ring on Monday Night Raws or whatever, or SmackDowns now, and we just take it for granted. Like, every time I see that, I go, that is cool.
It reminds me of when WWE did the thing with Dusty and Dustin.
Yes.
But you didn't know Dustin was trained. So you just thought he was just off the street. You're like, wow, he is natural. You didn't know he'd been trained for it's not like Dominic when you were like nowadays, because of the internet the way it is, you knew that he'd been training at Lancers and he had all that base to him before he'd come in. But yeah, that's for me it was, except Dusty sort of looked not washed, but he looked old then. Whereas Ray is like eternal.
Yeah, the age gap seems to be a lot. It feels a lot smaller between them. But yeah, like you said, he's that eternal.
He's got that Pharrell gene.
Yeah, he does. And he also makes me happy. I apologize. Yeah, I'm happy for them. Father, son. I mean, give him the tag belts, I say. That'd be, what an emotional moment that would be.
Well, there was a point during that Battle Royal, I'm sitting there going, I really want Silver and Reynolds to win this. I want Silver and Reynolds to have the tag title just because I love Silver that much. I love the act. I love the gimmick that much. I'm like, I just want these two to win the tag titles.
Speaking of tag divisions, AEW really like tag teams, don't they? They really like tag teams.
The thing is, it's almost to the point now where you need to get these bigger teams or these older ones sort of out of the way just a little bit, so the younger guys can come up. Like that Varsity Blondes, the Acclaimed. You got Devon's sons who are on Dark all the time.
Yeah,
they're all. I see
Billy Gunn's son was out there.
Yeah, the Gun Show. Both of his sons are out there now, and they looked really good.
Yeah, and weirdly like their dad.
Yeah, but both of them in different ways.
Yeah. Like it's like if you put two of them together, you'd make the dad.
Yeah. I was like, wow, the younger one's short, but he looks like him in the face. And like the older one just looks like him in height and body wise.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of talent there. There's just a lot of tag team wrestling.
There's a lot, But I hope that now that they're doing this AEW Dark elevation, that they'll maybe cut the times down of the Dark shows. So they run a tight thing. Because sometimes you'll see that Dark goes for 3 hours or 2.5 hours. And they're like, I'm not going to sit there and watch Dark for 2.5. Like, it's because it's essentially squash matches.
And it's pre-taped, right? It's not live, is it?
No, it's pre-taped.
And will the elevation thing be pre-taped as well?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as I know, because it's a YouTube show. So I can't imagine they'll do live YouTube shows every week.
That's a lot of content.
Yeah.
Really, they're going for it. It's a lot.
And then I'm like, also I'm sort of going, look, I feel really bad for the kid, but get -1 off TV. I'm not enough in the loop. I'm not enough in the loop for that. I don't see much of, to be honest, not much of -1. I feel terrible about what happened. Yeah, same.
And I'm fine with, I have no problem with AEW, like really kind of spending some time to make sure that young man, feels part of a family still. I respect that, but I have no idea about how they've used him in storyline. I did see on the pay-per-view, he was kind of standing on stage, kind of shocked at some point. And I was like, I don't really get it.
That is him nearly every week on AEW Dark. Right. He comes out like I'm just like, I don't want it to go to the point where you're sitting there going, just like where people start turning on him, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. He'd be an interesting heel though. That'd be great.
Yeah. Well, like he did one where a couple of weeks ago he just decided he was going to sit on commentary. And
how was that?
Every time Excalibur started talking, he just told him to shut up.
Oh, awesome. That's great.
So Taz was loving life, but
poor JR. He had a sore voice at this show.
I tell you what, that dude pulled it out though.
Yeah, he got there in the end.
If you heard his voice at the very start, I'm like, he's not going to make 3 hours. No way he's going to make this show.
Well, as a smoker, I can relate. My voice does get better through shows. Like when I start a show, I'm a little bit rough. And then by the third match, the adrenaline kind of, you can go. But then the moment the show, I don't know if it's the same for JR, but the moment the show finishes, your voice just cracks. Like the moment you stop yelling and you take a breath, you just go, and your voice goes. It's a nightmare.
I remember feeling that. I used to get that just before a show. My voice would just get round. I don't know what happened, but as soon as the show started, I was okay. Then after the show, again, I was like, maybe it's nerves. I don't know. And I'm not feeling it, but my body's feeling it. But yeah, maybe every now and then.
Might be due with adrenaline, maybe. Like,
yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? But I've got to call a Rumble this Friday night, and that's one of the hardest things to do in the world. It's so difficult.
Yeah, I did the last one for PWL up here, but I was
so you felt the pain.
I was only on color, so it was pretty much me in character, just being an asshole. So that came naturally. I was quite comfortable with that. But then I kept popping the commentator next to me because I would be like pretending to shield the microphone and telling the guys that I managed what's like to choke people. Choke him.
Right.
Choke him.
That's great. That's awesome. But yeah, it's especially with PWA, it's just the way they do their rumbles is just, it hits you so hard so quickly that it can be really exhausting and you don't realize.
Yeah, I'm a massive rumble mark. I hate, like I've booked a couple, hate booking them, love watching them. So
it's great.
I'm really looking forward to this week. I'm especially looking forward to some of the undercard because the undercard is very strong. It's a very strong undercard for a rumble.
Yeah, I think it's been the year that was, and we were able to do the PWA premiership over that time, which was something I think we're all very, very proud of that we were able to achieve. And then, our time came to an end with OVO Play, and they were great with us. OVO Play allowed us to go live for the first time, and we learned so much from working with them. They were great. And when that came to an end, Fite TV was an obvious choice, and they were amazing. Like, it was such a quick process with them, and we did that first show, and the reaction was something that even surprised us. I think we knew that we could get back with some momentum doing a live show at Factory Theatre and everything, and returning back in Black Label. But I don't think we realized the reach that Fite really has with like-minded fans on that site, watching things like AEW. And we saw that, and you could see the reaction. This next show is just absolutely stacked because we want to show Fite TV everything we can do because we've got all these people now going, wait, what is PWA? I kind of like the unique Aussie tinge that they have to this.
Yeah, well, not only that, but we're really lucky at the moment in Australia where we don't have the COVID cases that they have around the world. So our crowds can be packed. Mm-hmm. And that's something that for the last year, people aren't seeing with wrestling. I mean, they got, I think it was 1,300 into Daly's Place for the AEW show. But that's probably the biggest crowd they've had on a national television or anything for a year. So the fact that you guys get to have like 3, maybe 400, I don't know what that is, into that Factory Theatre, that's an atmosphere in itself. Like, that's the one thing I noticed when I watched that first show back, is that this is what I've been missing, is that live reaction of a crowd, the sound the crowd makes. Because you can't replicate, as much as I'm happy that WWE put in that canned sound because I needed it. Because those empty arena shows were a rough watch, and to the point where I would just watch highlights because I couldn't handle just how quiet it was. It was eerie. If anything, it made me depressed. So it reminded me the crowd wasn't there.
That 2-night WrestleMania was such a rough experience for everyone involved last year. I think that they pretty much rebooted it this year. I mean, they've rebooted the idea. It's that momentum thing is such a big thing in wrestling. And I think the last year has done something for everyone in wrestling that will stick with the industry all over the world forever, which is that the crowds are so important to what we do, and so important to tell the stories and entertain that crowd. Without it, it's a lot more weight on commentary, on production, on all these other things that you would rely on to be able to tell the story to everyone at home. It's a very different experience. And we went through it. We did some, a year ago when we were a week away from Ricky South and Caveman Ugg fighting for the title. We had to cancel our show. We did Don't Call It a Cancel in an empty Pro Wrestling Academy. That's tough. That is, it was a challenge, that entire thing. But I don't think anyone in wrestling will ever take crowds for granted again. It will always mean something to us forever now. That's
it, because I listened to a Busted Open podcast from America. Like, Tommy Dreamer's one of the co-hosts on it. And he was talking about the match he had with Rich Swann for the Impact Championship. Yeah. And he said, it's the first time I've ever been gassed during a match. As unfit as I look, it's the first time I've ever been gassed during a match because I didn't have that adrenaline from the crowd. You didn't get that feeling. So they didn't carry me through. And I really had to dig deep just to finish that match because I didn't have it. It didn't, like, that's when it hit me, just how important getting that feedback from a crowd is.
Yeah, I shudder to think about, our last show that we did back in Black Label last month. We returned in front of a crowd, and our main event was this crazy ladder match between the Velocities and MK Plus Ultra. I can't even start to think how difficult that would try to be to do in an empty arena. Like, you need adrenaline to do that, right?
Yeah, I don't even know if you would, like, as a worker, you would look at it and go, I don't want to do this. Like...
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they do any of it. I mean,
yeah,
yes,
true. Half the time when I'm in a match and the guys are planning, I'm like, why would you do that? Don't do that.
Well, right. I've always said that I'm a big enough wrestling fan to know that I can never be a wrestler. I just don't have what it takes. I don't have the dedication, the work. I mean, they're just, they're one part soldiers, one part insane. You've got to be this really unique mix of stuff, and I'm intrigued by. I love it, but I don't think I could ever do it.
Yeah,
it's too difficult.
I wanted to do it. I trained for it. I realized I was too old, and body kept breaking down. So I thought I'll just stand on the outside and do dastardly things. I'll take one bump every couple of months, and I'm good.
Great. What a job. What a great job. We'll find our place. Yeah. But yeah, no, you are right. Just going back to Started with a Kiss this Friday night. When we cancelled Coming Out of My Cave a year ago, we knew there was going to be a wait, but we knew that we weren't going to budge. We wanted this match to happen. Ricky earned that spot. He deserved it. And the world wouldn't let us have it. For so long, that borders are opening and closing and all these things, and they wouldn't let us have it. But we knew when the time was right, we could come back. And I love that we go from Coming Out of My Cave to It Started with a Kiss. And, the whole link to Ricky's journey. It's a very exciting moment for us to be able to finally have this match. And I think it'll be a real moment when Ugg walks out and he's on stage. He's here. He's in the building. I think it'll be a real moment. And you're right. This card is stacked. It is very, very stacked.
Yeah. I mean, let's go. I'm just going to go straight away with AJ Punch Drunk Istria and Sam Osborne. I think Sam is one of the future of PWA and Australian wrestling in conjunction with that. And Istria is just a grizzled vet. Now you could call him a grizzled vet. He was grizzled when he was a rookie, but he's even more of a grizzled vet now. If we're going to find out what Sam's got, this is definitely a guy that is going to test him.
100%. Istria will find out really what Osborne's made of. And Osborne has had an interesting story because the MMA project with Don Marnell has worked. He is a shining diamond. Don Marnell's management has helped him grow as a personality in social media and also inside that ring. And he had an incredible PWA premiership. He was on such a roll. And I think you would not be alone in a lot of people saying, he's going to be the man one day. He has everything it takes to be the man. But Jess tapped him out. And we all know what the Arm Collector can do and why she's the champ. And I think that's a real bump in the road for Osborne. And one thing about Osborne is that when you get in his head, he can get a little shook. And I think this is going to be a real test for Osborne because he needs to get his head right again and ignore the fact that half the crowd are going to be chanting, "You tapped out," to Jess Troy. And that annoys him. And Istria did a great promo today talking about how Osborne is the shining diamond. And if you turn cans into cans, I'll show you what I do with cans. He sculled a can and crushed it. I mean, Osborne should be worried. Istria is a dangerous man.
Yes. And grumpy. Eternally grumpy.
Yes. Unhappy. That's a lethal concoction.
Then we'll talk about Aussie Open versus the Nations. I mean, that was a shock for all the PWA fans to see Aussie Open come out because Kyle Fletcher had a massive history with PWA, and Mark Davis to make his comeback after would it be nearly 18? I think it was 18 months from injury, and
a long time.
He looks amazing. I see the work he does up here with 3 Count Wrestling Academy. He's the head trainer up there now, so he is constantly training, constantly working. He's in possibly the best shape I've ever actually seen him in. And when he got in that ring, he did not look like he'd missed a step. And he was in there with Ricky South and Wahlberg. Yeah. 2 of the guys that are the standard bearers at the moment at PWA. Yeah. And more than held his own, just showed he hadn't lost a friggin' one iota of step.
It's a testament to the chemistry of Aussie Open as well. Like, if you've ever seen them like do what they do and wrestle, like, like if you know about Aussie Open, and to see Dunkzilla back was so exciting. And my reaction was genuine when they walked out. I was so goddamn happy to see them out together, and you could tell in their entrance that they were emotional about it. And you made a great point. I mean, it's not just welcome back to PWA and Aussie Open thing, cue internet exploding. It's across the ring is Ricky South and Matty Wahlberg, the 21st Century Success Story. It's two of the best in PWA, and they put on an absolute banger. And when someone like Aussie Open, when those guys return and they perform like that, your mind just starts going, who do I? Oh my God, like, I want them to fight these guys. I want them to fight these guys.
Yeah. And what a lot of people might not know, like, they don't live anywhere near each other. Like, they live in different states, so they don't train together.
Wow.
And from just come together and just go bang.
Chemistry. It's beautiful. But, you know, to go from that and go, all right, we're going to do Nations and Aussie Open. I mean, man, that is insane. That's like two of the best tag teams to ever come out of this country are just going to just on a whim, just face off each other to see, you know, who's the best. And this could steal the absolute night, this match. And
a very controversial decision being that Mick Moretti's in this tag and not facing Wahlberg somewhere especially after what happened in the premiership final.
Hey man, Moretti, you know, I love Moretti. He's a good friend of mine, but he's his own man. I'm never going to question what he wants to do, and he likes to do things on his terms. And, you know, if you don't like a no from the rapscallion, you're going to have a tough time because he gives them out like Skittles.
Yeah. And, of course, Jack Bonza still dealing with the devastating loss of the leadership of the Red Nation.
Interesting. Bad bitch Bonza is what they're chanting now in the crowd. Yes. I don't know if he hates it or loves it, but there's definitely more to that story there, I think. And we all saw Kingsley get that victory after what was a really rough premiership for her.
I love that match. I really love that match. The whole thing about that first match, that first show, the first show to me just had a lot of heart. Had so much heart, like the love of like Bonza and Kingsley. Then also even that cinematic match.
Oh,
that was, you know what I mean? That
I was just thinking about it.
That whole show just had like a whole, like it was just like, I was so happy that live wrestling was back. B, then they do all this stuff. I'm just like, like goosebumps, like tears in the eyes, love.
Emotion. It was bursting out of us, I think. And we had so many stories we wanted to tell and so many talented people that haven't gotten to do it at the level of, you know, in front of a crowd like that for so long. So our job was easy. You just hit record and point the cameras and everyone just, I mean, we started the show with Robbie Eagles and Jessica Troy. Like, what the hell? They just incredible. And it's like, I think it was like 5 or 10 minutes into that match, I came out of the blur that was the beginning of a live show for me. And I just went, this is happening. Wow. This is, I think I say it in commentary. I go, I'm exhausted already. I'm like 10 minutes in, and it was true because I just could not.
This is an adrenaline dump.
The weight of the world, had just been released and stuff. And I think this one's even going to be bigger because, like you said, that emotion. I mean, I've never cried in a cinematic match, and I cried my eyes out at that Prefix match. So, I mean,
I told Ricky South that's the best cinematic match, hands down, that I've seen. And I'm talking everywhere because it had heart. It had none of those other matches I thought had heart. They're all just pure story, and you could tell these guys were acting. Even the Boneyard match where it was going to be the Taker's last thing was still just pure acting. You could tell those two guys like had feelings for each other, like friendship feelings for each other. And they loved all the work that they're doing. And if anything, this was like a symbol of, we're not going to be doing this anymore. And that there gets you. And I was just like,
it does.
Because I had Mitch McCarthy up here at my place and we were watching the show. And even as it was ending, I'm like, this is the best. And I was an actual harsh going into it. I was really critical because I'm just like, why the fuck would you do a cinematic match when you've got the crowd back?
Yeah.
Like, to me, I'm just like, why would you do that? I was like, this is so stupid. Like, started watching the match and I was just like, well, I was wrong. That was fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's always a risk, right? And you're right, that is definitely counterintuitive to go, why would you do a cinematic match in your first return to the crowd? But when you see that, like what they did, and you go, we got to do this. Like,
Yeah.
this is just, there's something about it. And I think the way they were as prefects, you know, the lovable underdogs who needed to sneak into the venue to even wrestle when they first started. And especially for us, you know, Chris and I have been commentating PWA for 3 years now, and that's pretty much the time span of that entire, you know, prefect story. So we've got to be there from the beginning to the end of it. It's emotional to see them grow and change and evolve and disagree on things, but still have a bond. And I think that's just beautiful that they were able to tell that in what also had a ruler fight in the middle of a playground. Like, how you pull that off is something of genius, and it's the PWA production team, man. They're the best.
It was even like, I think it was halfway through it, I've turned to Mitch and I've just gone, how did they win this match? He's like, what? I said, well, there's no ref. How is this ending? Do you know what I mean?
Two young men trying to settle their differences. I think it really was, and yeah, there was a clear ending. But when Cherry Stevens was handed her own ID, I lost it. I cried my eyes out for the rest of the thing.
Yeah, it was so very good. We'll move on from that because, of course, you've got the no DQ PWWA championship match. Jessica Troy, who hands down is in my top 5 favorite workers in this country. I love her work. Any chance I could get her up here to work for a show that I could, I took it because I knew she's just one of my favorite wrestlers. Like man, woman, child, I don't give a shit. She is one of my favorite wrestlers. And even to the point where, because when we had her up here, the first time was for a show we called Homecoming, which is our big like WrestleMania type sort of show. And we put her and Kellyanne against each other. And I put them in the middle of the show. And I literally said during the meeting, these two aren't the best women's wrestlers in the country. These are two of the best wrestlers in this country. And these two are going to come out there and blow your doors off. So if you can't match what they're going to do, then you need to know that you need to improve. This is like I'm literally putting these two on the card to show you the level that you should be at. Yeah. Because I love and I respect her work so much. It is like in Australian wrestling it's one of those things. She just looks great. Everything she does looks crisp. Every like cell she has, her personality, her character, everything is spot on. And I can't believe that she didn't get taken before everything hit.
Well, I mean, it's the world we live in. It doesn't make sense to you, does it?
No.
But this match is really, really interesting because this is two essentially sisters that are going to throw down against each other who have an incredible history. And two, I can say without a doubt, absolute gifts to the Australian wrestling industry, and for different reasons. I think the last year was very tough because UG was not able to be around. So we weren't able to really, express anything he wants to. The man expresses himself in movement. He's not much of a talker. So with him without the belt hurting people, his intentions weren't clear. But every month in, month out, during our time in the premiership, every empty show, Jess was there as the PWWA champion representing the company beautifully. I'm so proud of her for that. And I think she's a perfect choice. Like I love hearing you talk about her in a ring because she's a natural. There's something about her in a ring. She's meant to be in there. She's meant to do what she does. On the other hand, Charlie, an absolute gift to this industry, Australian wrestling industry, another natural, and someone, because of the circumstances of the last year, we are lucky enough to have it at PWA.
Yeah,
and we count our stars every show that we get Chebs to be involved in PWA because she is Chris would not stop talking about how good Charlie Evans was the entire premiership. He just would go on about Charlie Evans every time we got together to call the show. And it's two of the best right here that know each other so well. And I think it's insane to give these two no DQ because we know what Charlie Evans can do. And the arm collector, I'm actually quite nervous about this. I don't know why we gave them this ability. We should be restricting what they could do. They're dangerous with it.
What's the thing, like when I think of like Jess and when I think of Charlie, it reminds me of, because when I was training when Demi came in, or Rhea Ripley,
right.
And she was the same. Like I know it's probably very much the same at PWA, but at Riot City Academy, There's no girls, there's no boys. You're just wrestlers. Everyone trains the same. Everyone works the same.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, like, some of the women that come out, and obviously some of the women that come out of PWA are amazing wrestlers, because they're not trained to be women wrestlers. They're trained to be wrestlers. And that I think is so important, because back in the day, that's what, like, women wrestlers did an X Factor, a Bronco Buster, and that was the highlight of their moveset. Whereas nowadays, the girls that are coming up are so much, I don't want to say tougher, but they are hardened by being training like arm in arm with the guys.
Yeah, I think a lot of doors have been opened, which is really, really good. And it's allowed them, because, you know, you think back to those times and those restrictive matches that they used to have, and you think, was that their fault, or was that just management telling them what they couldn't do? And I'm sure it's different for every scenario, but I'm really excited to see it open up. In a world like WWE, where they have to keep them separate, the amount of time they put into the women's division in their company over the past 5 years, I've really respected. It's done great stuff. And because of that, we got a women's main event in WrestleMania. Let's not forget that we got a women's main event in a WrestleMania. So sick, right? But what's different about PWA is that intergender isn't necessarily a word we use in PWA. It's not even a thing that you need to state or point out. They are wrestlers. They all come together in PWA. You're a dingo, you're a PWA athlete. And that's the system, and it's why you have people like Charlie Evans and Jessica Troy in this country tearing the house down, is because no one's telling them no. Yeah. Everyone's saying yes, you're the best. Go for it. You're the champ. And no one's questioning that. And that's what I love about PWA.
Yeah. I remember with some of the girls we used to have at Riot City, you'd be like, hit me. Like, oh, you're a wrestler. Hit me. Right. You're not a girl. You're a wrestler. Hit me.
I'd be saying, please don't hit me.
but
yeah,
those two together are going to put in a match that Ricky South and Caveman I will probably be looking at from the back and go, well, shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you think about it, like Ricky South came in, there's a year build up in this match just because of what happened. And still, they're going to be going, great, we're going to have to follow these girls.
Yes. And also, I'm very interested to see, just like we were talking about in the Prefects match, this is two sisters, essentially, who are going to beat the crap out of each other. Where will we get to at the end of this? Will there be an understanding? Will Charlie Evans be the new PWA champion? What does that do to PWA? And what does that do to Jess? That's going to rock her world. And if Jess retains, Charlie Evans has not made the point she wanted to make. I'm really interested to see where the two of them end up out of this. Whether they could still be friends. I don't even know if they are friends right now.
Yeah, I don't think after the old the Academy show, if they'd be all that friendly.
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty mean to my friends, but I don't think I've ever stomped their arm in a chair. But no. They've got some stuff to resolve, and I'm here to see it.
Ricky South came in. What can you say?
I mean, this is one of the most incredible build-ups to a title match at PWA we've ever had. For it to be literally days away when the world locked down and we waited a year, it's a victory for PWA that we get to do this match. It's a victory for Ugg and Ricky, who have both worked so hard to get here. Mm-hmm. And no matter what happens out of this match, it's a victory. That's what I'm really excited about. When this match happens, there's going to be a different aura in the room, I think. We just talked about some incredible matches, but this match has something really deeply ingrained in PWA, because I take you back to when Matty Wahlberg won the Coliseum, which I don't like to bring up very often, but you know, me and Matty Wahlberg don't see eye to eye. But
because he's
when he won, yeah, and more and stronger and tougher. But I'm the better talker. Hey, hope you're tuning in there, Matty. So at the end of that show, when Matty grabbed the microphone to a full Max Watts, and all the wrestlers from the whole company were around the ring, and it was an amazing moment for Matty. He'd achieved something that only one other person had ever done before. Shout out Mick Moretti. And the moment he turned to Ricky got really emotional. And Matt talked about how they are soulmates in competition. They both go to the Pro Wrestling Academy and know they need to do more than the other guy. And it's almost like an unstoppable force and meeting an immovable object. The two of them are just so driven that they've created these super wrestlers out of it, which is Ricky and Matt. And they have this special bond. And I know the reason I say that is because everyone in PWA knows how hard Ricky works and how much he deserves success. The question is, you got to go through a man the size of Ugg, who has been the most dominant champion, I think, in PWA history.
Yeah. And let's face it, like, Ricky's been training the house down and Ugg's been just working deathmatch down under shows. So it's not like he's taking it lightly, and he's not like he's taking it lightly and just go, oh, I'll just take it easy into this. No, I'm going to go and fight in death matches.
Let's not get it twisted. This is the biggest challenge of Ricky's life. The biggest challenge of his career. And on the other hand, Ugg has not been present here to see the attitude of Ricky South. And you mentioned something there before about the Jess Charlie match and Ricky watching it backstage and what he would think. And I tell you, from my time knowing Ricky, he'd see a match as good as Jess and Chevs is going to be, and he would puff up his chest and he goes, all right, time to go. He takes it as a challenge and he runs at it full speed. It's inspiring because I could never do what Ricky does. And it's inspiring. I'm honored to get to tell his story, but this match is massive for everything that PWA stands for and returning and stuff. And I don't know how I'm going to be able to, I don't know how I'm going to be, because it could get quite emotional for me to see that journey and to see, all the hype and everything. And I hope I can be unbiased, but there's just a part of me that wants to see Ricky climb this mountain so badly that no one's been able to climb. And you name the best in PWA, they've all been unsuccessful. Yeah. It's a challenge and a half.
Yeah, I love Ricky, so I'll unabashedly say I want him to win it, because I want him to get that. I want him to get recognized. Because at the moment,
I'm just thinking about it.
At the moment, he's that guy that people talk about. They don't recognize him, if that makes sense to you. They don't recognize him as like a champion, like that on that championship level that certain people are. Like Bonzo, you think a champion. You think of champion with Moretti. You think of champion with Ugg. You think of champion with other guys around like Adam Brooks. You think champion. You don't, Robbie Eagles, champion. You don't think of that so much when you think of Ricky South. This, if he wins this match, this will put him on that level because he's beaten one of those guys. And it will put him there where he will basically be like, those other guys, come to me now. Come to me and try and take this off me. And that's what I really want to see. That's 100% that's what I want to see.
I love it. It's a great way to put it, because he does deserve to be the flag bearer of PWA. He represents everything that a PWA athlete should be and what performing in PWA means.
And
I've said that a couple times.
Outside of the ring, professional, like
amazing.
Like couldn't be the nicest person. Like I messaged him out of the blue, going, "Do you want to come on the show?" He goes, "Whenever you need me, whatever you want, Todd." I love having a chat. Like that, you don't get all the time. A lot of times, like, oh, pretty busy. I can't really. Can we work out this date? Like Ricky, nothing like that. It's like here's when I can do it, man. Is that cool with you? It's like, yeah, fine, thank you.
He loves it. He loves it. I'll tell you my quick Ricky story. This was like kind of like my first interaction with Ricky. It was maybe the first PWA Black Label show we did at Max Watts, and it's about a 3-hour show with an interval. And after it, I'm pretty spent, but I'm also running high on adrenaline. And the first couple of shows, I was very self-conscious about not being a wrestler. I don't want to get in anyone's way, or I just want to do my job. And afterwards, I want to help, and I want to shake all the hands and just, I was very nervous about being a dick, right? So I was outside having my post-show cigarette, and Ricky and the Dingoes were unpacking the ring out onto the truck. And Ricky is kind of like the leader of that, which people don't even realize as well. And I walked up to Ricky and I said, hey, Ricky, can I help? Like, is there something I can carry or something? And he just turned to me, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, Rose, you just worked for 3 hours. You deserve that cigarette. Take a seat. This is the Dingo's responsibility. And in that moment,
that's a very good impersonation, by the way.
Oh, I've spent a lot of time with Ricky.
Very good impersonation.
Do you want to hear my big fudge? I do a pretty good big fudge.
Yeah, go for it.
Hello, how are you? That's my big fudge. So good to see you. Champions, lad. Who's that?
Yeah, I've just got to, yeah. Here you going? Yeah. All the time.
I love it.
That's all I get. If I miss a phone call from him, like, Toddy, you're a silly boy. Yeah. Call me back.
Love it. But yeah, I mean, just a great story that always sticks with me about Ricky. He's there's not much more we need to say, really. He deserves it 110%. And I hope this is the moment. But we were feeling that before Shazza. We were feeling that before Wahlberg. We were feeling that before Bonzo. So many times we thought this is the fall of the UGG Empire, and it's never happened. So my heart says Ricky, but my head screams UGG at times, and I'm terrified about it.
All right. Well, real quick, who have you got for the Rumble? I know, because when I messaged you today, I said, we'll be in like 15, 20 minutes, in and out. We've
fine.
been here for nearly an hour.
It's fine. I'm used to this.
So who have you got for the Rumble?
This Rumble's going to be crazy. Because of the year off, the demand to get into this Rumble, I've never seen anything like it. Everyone wants in on this Rumble. So there's a lot of opportunity going, but maybe also less opportunity than there would be at other years because, running a full schedule, injuries can dictate people in and out of a Rumble, where this year everyone's like, I'm ready to go. So there is a very hungry roster at PWA in this. And I think we'll see just how deep and talented the roster is in this. There's a lot of questions in this Rumble. There are so many stories. We've already talked about a bunch of people in matches. Will they be in the Rumble? Will we see Kingsley, leading the Bad Bitch Nation again towards some kind of resolve? You've got Speed Force, all four of them with different kind of ideas and opinions about if we can band together, we can be the final four. And, SMS is in there talking very cryptically about where they're, and you just never know, they're thinking of something, but I never know what it is. And SMS
and possibly a new member. And
they're scheming. And you never know with Jordan. You can never take him serious. I never know, even when he says hi to me before a show, I'm like, do you really mean that? It's strange, but there is so many incredible stories. I want to know what's going on with a lot of different people, and there's also the excitement of some of the borders are open. Who will we get? Because I'm sure there's people in other states who would be very keen, but it's going to be hard for them.
You've got a New Japan Pro Wrestling roster member, Robbie Eagles. And I mean,
yeah, that's a good question. Will he get involved? I mean, I know he's pretty peeved after the Jessica Troy match. And I don't know. That's a good question, whether he will or not. I haven't talked to him, so I don't know. But yeah, there is a huge potential. Who would I pick to win? Well, someone who has an interesting strategy at the moment, and I think some people are sleeping on a little bit, is that Lyrebird Lucci just won the PWA Premiership with some of the best strategy I've ever seen at a tournament.
He did the same thing in the Academy match as well.
He's a master at it. And if he can find a way to avoid a lot of conflict in this Rumble, he could absolutely pull it off again. His gameplay of cowardly works beautifully in a Rumble, I think. I think he could. It would be crazy if he won the Premiership and then the Rumble back to back. Now, if you don't know, now you know with Lyrebird Lucci. So that could be an interesting one. I always think about someone like Matt Rogers. Just it's the old trope, but how do you stop a guy that size when you got to get him over the top rope? So, I've always loved Matt Rogers, and I think, he will shine in a Rumble environment. But
is it the dark horse? The dark horse that I really like is Headhunter Rig.
The Chief, yes. I love Headhunter Rig, and I haven't seen him for a long time. So I'm really hopeful that him being involved will get some success for Rig, because I agree with you, man. The Cannonball, that Cannonball, it's the best in the world, if you ask me. I love it.
He snapped a ring. He snapped a rope at IWA, one of the tour shows.
Fantastic. Oh, yes, I did see that. That's fantastic.
It's against, I can't remember which one it was, but it was against one of, it was either Paris or Jude.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah, I think it was, I'm thinking Jude. It feels like, I feel like I had a Jude moment in there. But, yeah. Paris de Silva and Jude the Dude London also could very much shine in this Rumble. Both huge talents. God, I could go on and on.
It's an absolutely stacked card, especially when you're thinking there's going to be 30 of them in there.
Yeah,
and that's the thing.
What's Wahlberg doing?
Yeah,
is Wahlberg in this Rumble? Is Mick in the Rumble? No, well, he's got a tag match. I don't even know. I don't even know if the people in the matches earlier will be involved in the Rumble or not. I mean, it is the most secretive thing in PWA. And all I've heard is that the demand is higher than it's ever been. So it's going to be a crazy Rumble, I think. It'll be great.
And for everyone at home, you can't get to the show live because it's sold out. It's been sold out for a while now. So the only way you can do it is the Fite app. Get on there.
Yep.
Order your pay-per-view. You do it if you're paid to watch a ring not explode this week. You already know how to do it. So get on and another dig in there for the AEW fans. Oh,
I'm so tempted to just be holding sparklers at the desk when we go live on Friday night.
I actually made a meme of the countdown,
mm-hmm.
and then when it exploded, I did the edge thing.
Yes, beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, my friends did not like it, but I loved it. I had a good old chackaletta. Anyway, we get back to business. It's back to business.
Yes.
Get on the Fite app. Order the pay-per-view Friday night. Get around it because it is going to be the best thing definitely on Fite for this weekend. It's a massive weekend, really, when you're thinking about it in Australian wrestling. You got you guys on Friday night. You've got MCW Ballroom Brawl on Saturday night, and that'll be up a couple of days after on, I think it's MCW Online. I can't remember exactly the address for it. Weekend is stacked. So start it off the right way, guys. Order PWA, get around it.
That's right. Friday night, PWA. It started out with a kiss on Fite TV. We're very excited for it. And like you said, this feels like the relaunch weekend for both, us and MCW as well. We're doing their shows, and it's very exciting to see everyone back doing what we love. But more wrestling is always better.
Yeah, and you're not paying $30 to see nothing explode.
Yes, so. I give you a no explosion guarantee. There'll be a lot of explosive stuff,
yes,
but not explosions per se.
Somebody today said it's funny they've got a show called Dynamite and they didn't know how to use it. I thought that was amazing.
It's beautiful.
Anyway, Rose, for people that want to keep a track on you on your social medias and all that, how can they do it?
Oh, I feel sorry for them if they want to do that. I'm terrible on social media. But if you want to catch me on Twitter, I think it's at Andrew Rose Knows. That's ROFC, Andrew Rose Knows. You can catch me as one half of the PWA commentary team on the PWA shows. We got so much coming up, and I hope you like the sound of my voice because you're going to hear a lot of it. Probably,
because you guys don't have monitors, do you, at the table?
It depends on where we are. So at Max Watts, because we're on stage, we have a beautiful view. But Factory Theatre, because we're on stage and we've got people sitting on the stage, it's a more restricted view for us. But we're able to stand up at the big moments, and we do have a monitor to be able to see stuff. But
because I noticed, like, during the show, you guys were standing up. I'm like, oh, those poor bastards.
It's what you got to do. We want as many people to be able to see the show as possible. So if it means we have to sit behind great fans, like they're all really lovely. We're yelling in their ear all night. They have to take that. So they're really lovely people up on the stage.
It's kind of a bonus for those guys to get to sit there because they get free commentary.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't suck, it is kind of a feature. Like they can hear us right there. And sometimes it's tough in the Pro Wrestling Academy. We're very echoey. We've got quite loud voices, so it can go around the whole room. But it's kind of a feature just for the stage seat. So if you ever want to kind of see how the production works, getting up on stage, you get to see a lot of it. But yeah, the more the merrier. So I'm fine with it.
Mate, thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, it was supposed to be 15, 20 minutes. We've somehow stretched it out now, and I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Well, my dad always said you could talk your way out of a brown paper bag, son, and now I've turned it into a career.
Thank you so much for coming on, mate.
No worries, mate. Thank you for having me anytime.
Big thanks to Andrew Rose for coming on. Like I said, this originally was going to be just the start of the normal weekly podcast, but I think after how long that chat went, I'm going to turn that into a full episode. So it'll be a nice little double episode for this week. It'll be Andrew Rose, of course, on Thursday, and then the normal episode will drop on Saturday with Dan St. Germain. Until then, guys, make sure you follow us on Facebook. You can do that with WrestleRadio Australia, on Twitter at WrestleRadio AU. We're also on Instagram at WrestleRadio AU as well. I'm at Beast Eastman on Twitter. Get out there, support, buy buy the pay-per-view on the Fite app for PWA. Get around them, support Australian wrestling. And until Saturday, it's my opinion, you're entitled to it. We'll see you next week. See you on Saturday.
Busy 23, got me feeling way too sweet. Yeah. Too sweet, put your fangs up. Too sweet, pour another cup. Let's be busy 23.